So, late one Halloween night, two siblings get together. One procures the mask from an old slasher film about the evils of the economic inequalities and classes in American society of the day. The other has an old jacket from their deceased dad. Put the two together with the one boy who's recently blacked out and had a bit of sort of a damaging enterprise against his old employer when he was locked inside of a server room on a Memorial Day weekend. And there we get Mr. Robot! It's Mr. Robot. Episode 2.2 init1.asec. Alright everyone, D here. Welcome to our coverage of this week's episode of Mr. Robot. So, spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. Alright, first couple of things. Music that we heard the transition, same as we had on the episode tonight. That is Mars Bringer of War by Gustav Holst. A very cinematic piece of classical music. It's in a lot of things. All of the whole 12 planets from that bit are in many, many things. You guys should check that out. Second, the code init1 that Darlene uses for Elliot today, talking about when she crashes, and is the same thing that she says in the whole opening bit that we were talking about at the beginning here. That's an old Unix Linux code that basically means to reset the system to a single user command. It's used when systems crash, as what Darlene is referring to. It also plays a big theme throughout the episode because, of course, Elliot is trying to get his system reset back to a single user function, basically himself, and getting rid of Mr. Robot. And that does center around the big chess game. Another big theme throughout this episode, the idea of chess. Not just the game, though, of course, that's popped throughout the episode, but really the idea of movements, of thinking many steps ahead of your opponent. Plays in a lot, especially stuff with Angela and Fisher this week. And finally, the ideas of leverage, also useful in chess, getting things against one another. Again, Angela speaks with that a lot about Fisher, and also we sort of get the idea of Ray dealing with that with Elliot, the whole confession scene. Is he asking to get information, something that he can then use against the leverage that he might need against Elliot to get Elliot what he wants to do that big system server move. So, a lot of little themes going through tonight's episode, but again, a great one. And it starts out in a beautiful scene. I honestly rewound and watched this a couple of times tonight. Is just a whole beautiful, the setup, the birth of Mr. Robot and the whole FiveNine plan. Beautiful that's happening on Halloween night. I love that the mask comes from some old cheesy horror film. She picked it up at a 99-cent store. And you combine that with the jacket that Elliot just found, and it was a wonderful scene. In fact, while they were smoking, getting high, I had that sort of thought, the way that he was telling the whole story of when he first blacked out. That was sort of the first instance of Mr. Robot, I think, coming forth in his from his subconsciousness. But that tells us why he got fired, how he ended up working for Allsafe, and why he is seeing Krista, his psychiatrist. So that was kind of a nice little bit. So combining all of those elements and just, again, beautiful camera work and storytelling in this scene. That whole change of persona. Like I was saying, I was half wondering if they were going to do some cheesy change of just, Elliot sitting there one moment, and then we go back to Darlene, and then we come back, and there's Mr. Robot responding, yes, we can talk. And I'm really glad they didn't. They did it in so much of a more beautiful way, the whole body language. Once he got the jacket on, the mask, the whole change of how he was, the whole FiveNine plan just spilling out. And like Darlene asked, is this something you've been thinking of for a while? Seems to, but it's one of those dark things, I think, in the back of Elliot's head. All right, so I do want to continue, of course, cover the rest of what was going on with Elliot and Mr. Robot, and of course bringing in Ray. But let's back up for a minute. Brief sort of little recap on where everybody is. Dominique, the FBI girl, we just get a brief bit from her, and it's basically bringing the FBI into fsociety, getting it ransacked. Only thing they seem to find is that bullet. Now we know that Elliot had the gun inside the popcorn machine. They sort of allude that he moved towards that. But Tyrell Wellick is alive, so what that gun was used for, I don't know. That may or may not end up being something. It may simply be something connect the gun or somebody to the fsociety arcade. Don't know that yet. Mrs. Wellick, kind of some interesting things going on with her. Speaking with the parking attendant in the parking lot where Elliot woke up, and the attendant told him he'd been sitting there for 2 days. That's how long the car's been. Obviously something else went on, how long the car's supposed to be there. I'm assuming that's the story that he had told Elliot is the same thing that he told the FBI. Why would he tell the FBI? Because Tyrell Wellick's truck was there, so that's why he's being interviewed. So he obviously knows more, maybe how long the car was there. Did he see Tyrell? Probably not. Also knows about Elliot, and they want to keep that quiet. So he might end up being a liability. I got to kind of agree with the driver. That is, I don't think things are going to end well for the parking attendant there. But that scene does let us know that she needs money. What she seems more willing to do is to sell out her husband to try and get her money from E Corp, but not really, because she didn't say anything about confirming that Tyrell killed the guy's wife. What she was saying is that she will testify. She'll tell the FBI that he was gone all night and didn't arrive until the morning. So my guessing is, again, thinking all these multi-layer, the whole chess idea behind this, is that there is some other backup story that they've got. They probably have multiple stories, multiple things that they could use. Now, her whole bit with her boy toy, that was kind of harsh, but in a way kind of sweet. I mean, she's honest in the way that she says that, you know, I've had people that can give me all of these things you're talking about, and it didn't make me happy, and that's why I love you, because you can't. Almost the exact opposite of Tyrell and that whole society. So in a way kind of sweet, in a way kind of harsh. I mean, it may have been the nicest things that she has ever said to anybody, as my wife had put it while we were watching the show. Totally true. Could simply be just, that's just her way of kind of reaching out. But has she talked to Tyrell? We don't know. We saw that the phone had come, and we were assuming that was him that was calling back in the first episode. But she doesn't seem to be implying anything, whatever connection that they might have. So how all that's going to play out with her, I don't really know. Again, she's really kind of, she's not doing a whole lot in there, just constantly giving little back bits, and I think that she is just here right now as the connection to Tyrell. So where this is all going to play out, we're just going to kind of have to wait and see. Now, as for Angela, she's playing a real cat and mouse game with Fisher. When we talk about chess here, this is those multiple levels, moves within moves. How many steps ahead can you see the other person going? And of course, the idea of leverage, as she talks about with her lawyer down there at dinner. But first, I love that opening sequence where she's listening to her self-affirmations as we get to see our two Patsies just sort of led off in handcuffs. And there was kind of a look of surprise on her face. For a moment, I wasn't sure if she was regretting her choice or maybe the move had been done without her. She didn't do it, but Fisher did it instead. But no, it did. I think the surprise was that Fisher's information was correct, that everything that he is giving her has been true. He is continuing to play this game. But I love that Angela's aware of it. She's not just... I'd feared she'd just fallen into sort of being an E-Corp patsy, get as far as you had. But she does seem to be aware of what's happening and really wants to look in and see what the leverage is that Fisher is trying to get on her, or giving her in order to get something else. Now, the big question, of course, is it just to move ahead, you know, as she does with the final confrontation she has with Fisher in the parking lot? Is it just to get the corner office, to get the bigger job, to get all of those big corporate fancy things? Or is she going for something else? Is this her end of the game? And even though Fisher denied her that, I think that's his part of the game. Don't give up too much too soon. Make her want it. Make her do the back and forth. She is right. She knows she's right. And we know that she's right because the plant and the whole thing that was behind all of this is what Fisher and White Rose were talking about. Besides, oh, by the way, White Rose, beautifully played by B.D. Wong. I mean, the whole cast in the show really is amazing. And I just love the next steps that they are doing with the cast, with the performances, and with the characters. But it was the plant that they were talking about and that whole time frame. Remember, White Rose has a whole thing about time. Trying to do it Fisher's way, I think they were talking about 6 months. Again, we don't know the specifics of what's going on, but that's kind of unimportant right now. What we know is now they're going to have certain competitions of which path they want to take. And that's going to let Angela know what she's going to take, and then it kind of cascades out from there. So many plans within plans, many steps ahead that people are thinking. All right, now, the game to end all games, the battle for control between Mr. Robot and Elliot. Just beautifully carried out this episode. And they really deal with a lot of deep thoughts of existence, identity, dreams. What are we living for? What is the point? What are we after? Very, very intense thoughts carried out through this episode. And really bookend kind of appropriately with Ray, who has set himself up even in the beginning of this as sort of the confessor, the connection. He can see that there's something going on with Elliot. But is he using that for Elliot's good? Or again, is this leverage? Is this a chess move? Because chess is the game that he is providing to Elliot. Is this just to kind of get in so he can know something about Elliot that he can use against him to get his job done, or to kind of coax him in as a friend to try and get him to volunteer? What Ray's motivation is in this, that's really kind of up in the air. I sort of like the character, but he's almost too likable. There is that dark side, and we know that definitely there is something darker going on with him. I really, really enjoyed the discussion between him and Elliot that is immediately interrupted by Mr. Robot saying, "Do not tell him anything." I thought it was just a beautiful, again, insertion of this idea, the second character in Elliot's mind. As he's talking to us, then another part of his mind is talking back to him. It's just a beautifully framed scene. And really a lot of touchiness going on between all the characters sort of involved with Elliot's decisions here. Even Mr. Robot himself, when he talks about the consequences for control, that it could be emptiness, not knowing, that sort of void of non-existence. Even as he is describing this as sort of the consequence, one way or the other, that could have happened with this chess game, there is sort of a touching tone to him, almost that he doesn't really want to do this. Is this something that has to happen? I would rather have a coexistence. Something that, of course, does play out eventually as the whole episode ends up. But everybody has great discussions. I love, even though Krista's only in this episode for a brief bit, I really enjoyed their discussions, especially now that they are conversing. This isn't just Elliot kind of going off in his head, that he has to work this stuff through, as Ray had pointed out. But the fact that Krista and Elliot can kind of have that honest back and forth really was nice to see. And her idea of you're talking about annihilation. This is not something that you want. You do not give up a part of yourself. And Leon's whole bit with looking for dreams, that dreams are why we live. You should dream, find out what it is that you are fighting for. Just great gravitas, and very unexpected, since he's been pretty much talking about Seinfeld and kind of nonsensical stuff. To really drop this strong bit of insight was beautiful to see. And then we get to see what is Elliot's dream. It's to reconnect. He's always talking about loneliness, that sometimes he just wishes to connect with people. So that's his dream, to connect with the people that he loves, to his friends, to the world around him. And I love that we are included, not only in his discussion with Krista, that he won't give us up, but also in his dream. We are there, very nice as audience members. But if you did see even that sort of synchronicity, that sort of detente with Mr. Robot's even slightly implied here, because as part of his dream, he does see the building, he does see E-Core fall. So it's not only just connecting with people. That is part of his dream too, and this is part of the goal that his community is going for. So just again, everything was really framed very nicely till we got to that point, that discussion, the game that just keeps ending in draw and draw and draw, because like Mr. Robot said, can't make any move that you don't want me to. So part of him does want to keep that sense of self, and really find out why right afterwards when Darlene makes that call and makes that connection. What is it that's going to really make Elliot have peace within himself, to really find that balance? What Mr. Robot is there for? Darlene's in help. Init 1, I'm crashing. Need your help. And she's very nice to say that right now, even though in the beginning of the episode it was, well, I need him now, that she's replying, I need you. But really, I need you, all of you. I think is really what that is being said right there. And right into hacking the FBI. Love the idea of going in, using Ray now as sort of, okay, Ray wants to use him, we'll use him right back. We can use his computer, we can use his facilities. Now, what is Ray up to? Because as soon as Elliot agrees, Ray's calling his buddy in, and that's the muscle, that's the creepy guy. You know, that's the dark side of Ray right there. And as he says, I keep my stuff very private, don't look at anything. Okay, so what's Ray up to? It's got to be some sort of dark web stuff. He's using Bitcoin, so it's non-traceable currency. Just text, it's just information. It doesn't seem to be any connection with supplier chain or anything else. It's just moving of site. It just seems to be information. So what is he into? I don't know. Secrets, dark stuff, I don't know. Unfortunately, I was reminded of the very first episode with him. Remember where he was in that cafe and shut down that one guy, called the police on him because it ended up being a kiddie porn ring. I think Elliot can deal with most stuff that Ray may be dealing with, even if he sees it, to not let it bother him. I don't think weapons would do anything. Certainly don't think drugs would mean anything. But if he runs into that, if that's what Ray is doing, that's not something I think Elliot can be quiet on. So that, I don't know. Hopefully you won't see anything. Hopefully it's something nice. If it's that, then we're really going to have more of a bigger conflict going up between Ray and Elliot on top of everything else. So gotta kind of wait and see. Oh, and forgot, last bit, when he does decide to go in and hack the FBI, again, making kind of peace with himself, diving right back in. The little line they brought up that the FBI switches from Blueberry to Android. The .asec at the end of this week's title, that's an Android computer program suffix. So I don't know what little connection with that is. It just sort of caught my eye. I thought it was funny amongst with everything else that was in here. So anyway, that's it for this week. So next week we're going to dig into the FBI. Might be finding something else about Ray. Lots and lots of things. I think we have 12 episodes in this season. So we're going to go a little bit longer in this year. I don't know. I'm really excited. They're going darker, but they're just... the shots, the music, the composition, these episodes are just so impressive. I'm really enjoying all of this. I hope you guys are too. What did you think of this week's episode? Give me a shout out. Throw it down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Any particular ideas? Where do you think everything is going? I don't know. If you did enjoy this review, go ahead and hit that like button. Hit the little red subscribe button right over here. And you can come back every week. Anyway, that's it. You can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. Other than that, I'm out of here. I'm D, and I will catch you guys next week. Take it easy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.